Hello and welcome to another episode of the Good Hearted Podcast. I'm your host, Morgan Anderson, and today I'm going to be sharing tips with you about coping with the holiday season and taking care of yourself so that you survive it. In my last episode, I shared how I am mentally preparing for this holiday season and sharing some tips with you so you can do the same thing. So if you have not listened to that episode, please be sure to go back to episode 74 of the Good Hearted Podcast and hear about how to mentally prepare to get through the holidays. Today is going to be more about coping with things as they're happening because the holidays can just be such a stressful time. I find myself getting overwhelmed and burnt out and then not even really enjoying the holiday traditions that I normally love. So I'm excited to share with you today the ways I'm planning on surviving this holiday season and to just give you some tools and mental notes for combating the exhaustion and frustration and stress that comes along with it. Also, before I go any further, I just wanted to apologize for the delay in this episode coming out. It never fails when I try to get ahead of things and get things scheduled. The shit hits the fan here at home. And so we've been sick in our house for at least a week. My husband, it was like an extra week. And then we also had Thanksgiving and Harper's birthday and like so many things happened the last few weeks. And I haven't really gotten like a decent voice back until the last couple days without coughing my head off. And so all of those things prevented me from being able to record this episode sooner. But I took some of my own advice that I wrote for this episode and just gave myself some grace and did what I had to do to get through that hard time. I finally got some rest last week, got my house back under control, and finally felt like I was to the point where I could start recording again. So I just want to say thank you for waiting on me to release the second part of this little mini series that I'm doing. I really think it will have been worth the wait because this is a really good episode that I just really put my heart into because the holidays shouldn't be so negative. I feel like some of the music and the movies and just that magic of Christmas tends to mask all of the things that are hard about the holiday season when we're looking back on past years. But when we're living in it in the moment, sometimes we can't feel that magic. We can't feel happy. And we forget by the next year that we were so miserable during Christmas time or during the holidays. And maybe you're not like that, and if not, that's great. This episode is not for you, but if you are somebody who struggles mentally or emotionally or even physically during the holiday season because you're running yourself ragged, this episode is for you. I just want you to feel confident going into this season, knowing that you can make the most of it without killing yourself to please everyone and to do everything. So like I said earlier, part one of this little mini series was all about mentally preparing for the holidays. So things like managing your expectations and setting boundaries, marking your calendar with the things that you really want to do. So again, if you haven't listened to that episode yet, be sure to go to the previous one, number 74, and hear all of those tips. And out of all of those, I think the most important one that kind of relates to the content in this episode today is just managing your expectations. Not to expect the worst, but to just have a little reality check and keep your expectations in line with what you can normally expect from a certain person this time of year or event or gathering or tradition. And I think by doing that, instead of just assuming everything is going to be magical and perfect and happy, I think if you're realistic with your expectations, you're already a few steps ahead of someone who is expecting to be fulfilled by certain things and certain people and then be let down by them. So now I'm going to go over my top ways to cope during the holiday season. So I hope you are doing something that is relaxing, maybe get cozy, snuggle up with a blanket, do some Christmas shopping while you listen to this episode, or take your own notes, or take a walk if it's warm enough to do that. Just something to take care of you, either to help you get ahead in the things that you need to do, like chores, or to really just take a moment to rest and take in this information and see if any of it resonates with you and helps you. So at this point, I'm just going to assume that you have listened to number 74, all about preparing mentally for the holidays. Obviously, now I'm going to get into the coping and basically just like maintaining during the season. So as things come up, how to deal with them. For instance, if someone asks you to commit to something new that has not been on your calendar, that you haven't reserved time for, you do not need to give them an immediate response, because if you do, you will probably commit to something without really thinking it through. So I encourage you, anybody who texts you or asks you in person, to just say, I'm gonna have to check my calendar and get back to you. There is nothing wrong with that. Someone might get annoyed with that answer, especially if you're someone who usually jumps on helping somebody else, but you do not owe them that. They should totally understand that this season is crazy and everybody has lots of plans, and it is totally fine for you to check your calendar before you commit to anything else. Not to mention, if you kind of sleep on that decision, you might decide it's not going to be worth your time, money, supplies, like whatever they have asked you to contribute to this. Is it more important than something else that you're doing, or is there going to be some kind of scheduling conflict? Especially last minute plans, I don't think you should feel bad about saying you can't make those. So that's kind of my first piece of advice, is to just not answer somebody immediately, especially if they're asking you to commit to something totally new. Sleep on it and then get back to them the next day or a couple days later. The second tip I have is to try to be neutral and polite when you can stand to be. I know family sometimes makes things really difficult, and maybe you have different views or different lifestyles, or just literally have nothing in common, and it's hard to be really engaged with people like that, or to even be polite to them. And I'm just saying, when you can, don't rock the boat to make your life easier. Instead of starting some kind of fight or conversation, just let things slide that you're comfortable with letting them slide. Just politely respond with some kind of short answer, and don't carry on that conversation. Now, there are some things that can be extremely hateful to talk about, and I'm not saying don't say anything about those things, but if there's something that happens that, somebody hurts your feelings or disrespects you or something like that, if you don't feel comfortable reacting in that moment, maybe take a couple days to cool down, and then you can always reach out to that person and then resolve that issue more one-on-one, instead of in front of a room full of people after you've maybe had something to drink, or your belly's full and you're grumpy and you're tired and you're ready to go home and you're just like snippy with people. Just choose your battles wisely. The things that are worth fighting about and duking it out over Christmas dinner, go for it. But if somebody just always makes some kind of comment or asks a certain question, try to just let it roll off, or like I said, address it with this person at a later date. My next tip is to try something new, like a new tradition or some kind of activity, whether it's related to the holiday season or not. So whether you want to just shut yourself in your own house for the day or the weekend, or you want to take some kind of little trip or go to a different town, or do, like I said, some kind of new tradition, now's the time to do it, because you have so many kind of mundane things that you have to do and kind of going through the motions with the holiday season. But doing something new with somebody that you love is such a great bonding experience. So whether that's with your partner or your friend or your whole family, even just by yourself, taking some time to try something new, do something new, it can help re-energize you to get through the rest of the holiday season. So my fourth tip is very similar to my second tip, except this one is more about letting go of things that you can stand to, and to be easier on yourself. With all of the things that you're having to do for the holidays, all of the cooking and cleaning and hosting and gift giving and caroling or whatever Christmas stuff that you do, you don't also need to be beating yourself up. You're already exhausted. Your plate is already overflowing with things to do and make and attend. You don't need to be down on yourself with all of that also going on. So try to just be patient with yourself and be gentle with yourself, and to just let it go if there's an outfit or a meal or an event that doesn't go quite as planned. So just try to be gentle with yourself and to let things go when you can. Like when it comes to things that you're putting on yourself to be responsible for. So here are some things that you can do if you start feeling burnt out. And please do this when those feelings are first coming on. Don't just like put it off and put it off and put it off until you are depressed and you're not coming out of that. If you can help it. I know that's easier said than done, but just try to listen to yourself, your physical body, your mental health, slow down and try to fight that burnout. If you're feeling burnout, you can skip an event or an activity or some kind of tradition that you normally do, especially if you're dreading it and it is just causing all of this extra stress and worry. Skip it. That's not always the fun thing to do, but it's definitely something that you can do if you feel you need to. Also, have a code word or signal with your partner, whether that's like the friend that you came with or your actual partner or your kids or your mom or whoever is there with you. Have some kind of word or signal to let them know either that you need a break, like to step out of the main room for a few minutes, or that you need to go. And just kind of talk to them ahead of time about your anxieties about the event or whatever you're going to, and that when you use this word, it's time to go. I also think it's always a good idea to talk about and decide how long you plan on staying at whatever event or activity. Just that way, everybody's on the same page and you have something to look forward to, like, oh my God, I only have to do this for 20 more minutes and then I can go home and get in my like fuzzy pants and fuzzy socks and just snuggle on the couch and do nothing for the rest of the night. Because honestly, that's probably what I will be doing after most of our family events. I also think it's a great idea to have a physical book or an audiobook handy for when you have some downtime to yourself and you just want some of that escapism that is really hard to get this time of year. And even though I normally love Christmas music, I get so tired of hearing the same songs over and over and over again inside like stores and the grocery store and pretty much everywhere I go. So I also like having my earbuds on me just so I can pop them in and listen to what I want to listen to, whether it's my own Christmas music or regular music or an audiobook or podcast or something like that, because I have gotten actually angry at the store before because I would be like, I have heard this song 3 times today and it's the same version of it, not even like a different artist or something. So if you want to avoid that like I normally do, bring your own earbuds or headphones or whatever you need to do to just drown out everything else and get your shit done. And if you're feeling burnout, it is always a great idea to take a nap. Sometimes I have a hard time falling back to sleep at night, but usually I am so tired that like even after a nap, I feel like I could go back to bed. And so I think just getting some extra sleep during this time of year is always a good idea. And if you're really, really feeling burnt out and you're like to the point of no return, I would definitely suggest scheduling some kind of spa or massage appointment for you to be pampered after the new year, whether you go get your nails done or hair done, or like I said, a massage or something like that. That way you have something to look forward to and it will be a reward for getting through all of those holiday events. And then you'll get some time to really rest and to be pampered after taking care of everyone and everything else for probably the last 2 months. And so my 6th tip for like the maintenance and coping with the holiday season, I just combined some quick stress relief tips. So these are just things that you can have around your home or just mentally be prepared to access some of these if you're feeling stressed and you need to unwind. I love doing meditations, especially ones that are specifically for stress or anxiety relief, and the sleep meditations are what I use the most. So sometimes I have a hard time going down for those naps, but I really want to take a nap. And so if I do a little sleep meditation, it normally helps me fall asleep faster. I also think having a weighted blanket around is a great idea, or if you don't have one like me, you can just ask somebody to lay on you or to hug you, because when somebody hugs you, it releases that serotonin in your body and it just allows you to like take a breath. I also love having easy, super cute coloring books handy with markers and crayons so that like whatever mood I'm in, I can sit down and color something that's mindless and easy and just give something for my hands to do, because I really have a hard time sitting still and just like watching a movie without being productive. Also, make time to watch a movie that you've been craving, something that makes you feel good or that will make you cry if that's kind of what you're needing. Either have a list of these movies or add them to your list on one of your streaming platforms and indulge yourself in that. You can also stock up on your favorite snacks, especially like the holiday kind of treats. Why are those always so much better than just regular snacks? I don't know if I will ever figure it out. So those were all of the things that I had on my list for stress relief in the moment as it's happening. And so when it comes to surviving and coping with the holidays, I just want you to know it's okay to get stressed and overwhelmed. Even if you've done all of the things in this episode, doesn't mean it's gonna solve whatever problems that you have going on or whatever feelings you're having. It might suck, but it's okay to feel negative feelings this time of year. It's okay to allow grief to be part of your celebration. It's okay if you don't feel close to family members or even friends that you were close to a year ago. It's okay to not feel happy or grateful this time of year. It's even okay to mourn, whether it's a person that you knew or a version of yourself, or to even mourn or reflect on certain memories. It's okay to deal with some of those feelings that just feel negative and hard and sad. It's okay to let those things come up and allow them to be part of what you do this year. Whatever you're feeling is totally fine. It's totally okay. When I first thought about the idea for this episode, which ended up being 2 episodes, I was really kind of bummed out about it and sad. And I was like, is this even something that I want to share with the world? Because I feel like so much about holidays is just keeping up an image. And thankfully, I've seen a couple other people post lately, something similar about surviving the holidays, coping with the holidays, like self-care during the holidays, because it is so hard. And thankfully, I think our generation has done a great job of like shifting that and being more honest about the holidays and what makes them hard. And I just wanted to contribute to that. And I just hope that I can raise Harper in kind of a world where there's a less stressful way to celebrate the holidays. And also, I want that for me and Dylan. I hope you have enjoyed this episode. I hope it is helpful for you. Feel free to re-listen to it or even to send it to somebody else who you think would benefit from it. Again, if you haven't listened to the first part of this little series, listen to episode 74, all about mentally preparing for the holidays. But I wish you the best of luck this holiday season, and I truly appreciate you for tuning into this podcast. So I'm taking my own advice. I'm letting some things go, and I'm being gentle with myself. And so this will actually be the last episode that goes out in 2022. And so I'm going to take the next month to enjoy my family time. So I hope you have a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. If you enjoyed today's video, please be sure to like and subscribe, and maybe even send it to somebody that would enjoy it and benefit from it. And I will see you in January.